Hello, and welcome to the Auron Software channel. In this video, we'll demonstrate how to set up the SMS server for high availability. To follow along, you'll need a server or VM with the SMS server already set up as a standalone server, and a second server or VM to serve as the secondary server. You should also have access to a database server within your organization that is part of a SQL Server HA cluster or an Azure database. High availability mode ensures that the SMS server remains operational and accessible, even in the event of an operating system failure or network outage. The SMS server operates in a two-node setup. One server acts as the primary, while the other functions as the secondary server. The primary server performs the tasks, and the secondary server continuously monitors the primary. Both servers use the same database, ensuring that the primary and secondary servers always share the same configuration. If the primary server becomes unreachable, the secondary server takes over. Once the primary server is restored, the secondary server stops and hands all tasks back to the primary server. This makes your service highly resilient. To start, let's change the configuration type of this server to Primary Server HA. Begin by launching the Configuration Wizard from the menu by clicking File, Configuration Wizard. In the first step of this wizard, change the configuration type to Primary Server HA. In the second step, verify your current database server. Ensure that the Microsoft SQL database is not hosted on either the primary or secondary server. The database can also be a Microsoft Azure cloud database. In this case, we connect to a database that was already prepared. You can type in a new database name to create a new database here. Next, walk through the wizard and keep most of your existing settings. As part of the high availability configuration, the configuration wizard also requires setting up a network share to the SMS server data directory. This is crucial, it's how your trigger scripts are synchronized between the primary and secondary servers. Finally, the configuration wizard displays the tasks required to transform the standalone configuration into a primary server configuration. Click Next to run all these tasks. When all tasks are marked with green check marks, you're ready to complete the configuration wizard. Our configuration is now set to Primary Server. However, we still need to enable high availability on this server. To enable high availability, go to the Options view in the Configuration section of the left-hand tree view. Click on High Availability to display the high availability options. Then, click on Enable High Availability to activate high availability. High availability has two important settings, the check interval and the check threshold. The interval determines how often the secondary server checks if the primary is still reachable. The threshold determines how many failed attempts will cause the secondary server to take over. Lower values for both settings will result in the secondary taking over more quickly. However, lower values can also cause the secondary server to interrupt the primary server too soon. The default values work best in most cases. You can also set up notifications for when the primary server becomes unreachable, and when it is restored. You can choose to send an SMS, email, or make a post request to a URL. These notifications can also be used to switch a load balancer. Click on OK to accept these values. The SMS server service needs a restart to enable high availability. Click on File, Service Start Stop to show the service control dialog and click on Restart to restart the service. Next, let's set up the secondary server on a different virtual machine. In this example, we've already set up a standalone SMS server. We'll now launch the configuration wizard to change this to a secondary SMS server. In the first step of this wizard, change the configuration type to Secondary Server HA. In the second step, verify your current database server. This needs to be the same database server that you've selected for setting up the primary server. Next, select the database that the primary server uses. Enter the host name and the data share of the primary server. This allows the secondary server to listen to events from the primary server as well as synchronize the trigger scripts. Next, walk through the wizard and keep most of your existing settings. The data directory on the secondary server also needs to be shared. This ensures that the secondary server can fully mirror the data and services of the primary server. Lastly, the configuration wizard will display the tasks required to transform the standalone configuration into a secondary server configuration. Click Next to run all these tasks. If all tasks show green check marks, we can finish the wizard. We've now completed setting up the SMS server for high availability. You can verify the configuration by opening the Service Control dialog. This dialog displays details of the service running locally, as well as the status of the primary and secondary services. If either turns red, it indicates that the server is no longer reachable. With this setup, your service is now much more resilient against any kind of interruption. If you have server channels running, such as the HTTP API or the SMTP server channel, you might consider using a TCP load balancer, like HA proxy or Nginx. This will make the switchover from the primary to the secondary seamless for your clients. This concludes our tutorial on how to set up high availability in the Auron SMS server. Try it for yourself by downloading the trial version from the Auron Software website.